And joining me live now is one of them, the Kennedy MP, Bob Catter. Bob, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So I do want to start off with this deal that has basically been signed off overnight. China pushing ahead with that security pact with the Solomon Islands. As a Queenslander, how worried are you about that?
North Queenslander, and maybe it is a northern perspective, but if you can't see the Chinese coming at you, you're blind. I mean, why would they want a deal and to set up a base in the Solomon Islands? Well, there can only be one answer to that question, because they intend to be the power in the South Pacific. And 80% of our iron ore goes to China. And really, there's nowhere else China can get it from. Now,
so what do you propose?
If you have a port in Darwin and an air base at Merredin, just outside of Perth, what do you think they're for? Whether to develop some trade with Australia? What conceivable point would you have in owning the Port of Darwin, or Global Switch, which has access to all of our armed forces information? Why would you want to own those assets unless you have a very, very territorial ambitions, very strong territorial ambitions? And we are the little bunny rabbit being swept on by the hawk here. And there we've taken no slightest step to protect ourselves. Those three steps are to kick China out of the ownership of 40% of the electricity industry in Australia, because they can switch the lights out.
So what do we do? What can we do though, Bob? I mean,
secure in petrol.
This security deal looks like it's going...
Give me 1 second more, Peter.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, forget about the security deal, right? We're talking about Fortress Australia. So you do three things. And this is the Rear Admiral who did the armoury report speaking, not me. You must secure the essential services, electricity and fuel. We have really 3 days of fuel. I'll argue that with anyone. 3 days of fuel. How can you possibly defend a country with 3 days of fuel? Electricity, China owns over 40% of Australia's electricity industry. No country should own any part of essential services. So they go out of Global Switch, right? But they're elementary things. The two main things, of course, are a missile fortress wall. And I'm not Robinson Crusoe in calling out for that. There should be something like 200,000 missiles. I doubt whether there's 200, but I'm going to contact the Chinese government since they got all the information on Global Switch to find out how many. But a missile fortress wall, and finally, and controversially, every boy in secondary school in Australia has a rifle that he is trained to use in the armoury at his school.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure you're not going to get much support on that one, though.
5 million people.
I know you've been very strong on that over a long time.
I don't care whether I want to support on that. You answer me, Peter, how the Ukraine, a tiny little country, is holding at bay the second biggest army on earth. How? I'll tell you how. A proliferation of rifles. Every kid in this country for most of the last century did exactly what I was talking about. And if you understand guns or have ever had one in your hand, you will know that you have a feeling of responsibility, not irresponsibility. You have a feeling of responsibility and maturity, and you have some pride in having an ability to protect your country. And look, I just go back to one word, Ukraine. And all of those European countries, Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, all of them have proliferation of rifles.
Okay, Bob,
that's the reason why they've fared so well in so many wars.
We're almost out of time. I've got a bunch of topics to talk to you about, but I'm running out of time now. I just got to ask you, Bob, who will your party back in a hung parliament if that happens?
Rod Jensen, a very glamorous candidate. We have high hopes in the seat of Cairns, but Rod was asked that question, who are you going to back? And he said, the question's not framed the right way. The question should be framed, who they are going to back.
So who's it going to be for you, though?
Laughing. It was the perfect answer. No, that's the answer. Who are they going to back? I mean, I'm not interested in who I'm going to back. I'm interested in who they're going to back. Are they going to back the people of North Queensland? Are they going to back the people of Australia?
Okay, one more.
We're asking them who they're going to back.
What about, how would you feel about whoever wins doing deals with Climate 200?
Both of them. See, this is the terrible part about Australia. There's only, Peter, only two ways you can interpret 2050, right? One, they're lying, and my bet is they're both lying. Or two, that you're going to close down the coal industry of Australia. There's no in between. We can do it otherwise. Well, hold on a minute. If you're putting coal out there, it's burnt. Whether it's used to create metals or whether it's used to create electricity, you have to burn it, right? So if you've got coal, you're burning it, you put CO2 up. So if you're saying negligible emissions, then you must stop coal. Now, to say anything else is a flagrant lie, and I think most people assume that they're politicians and they're lying.
I need half an hour to talk to you, Bob.
Isn't that sad?
Oh, no.
The modern coal-fired power station uses algae ponds and has zero emissions, actually, and makes a lot of money out of the algae.
I had many other topics to discuss, but we're out of time, unfortunately. But appreciate you coming on so early, Bob. Thank you.